Well, happy New Year almost. Before I get out of here, before I leave to go watch the fireworks, I just wanted to wish people a happy New Year. Uh, it's been a roller coaster ride this this past year, and what's been going on, fears and printed meat and just everything. But we're still here and grateful to be here. And I hope that everyone is, making their New Year's resolutions. I'm not making any New Year's resolutions because I've been quitting smoking every New Year for 40 years and it ain't happened. So I'm not even going to say it this year. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Um, my resolutions, it has to come organically, I think, because you make your resolutions and you got your list of what you're going to do and what you're not going to do, and you end up doing what you're not going to do, and you end up not doing what you're going to do. So that's kind of like old for me at this point, almost old as I am. But anyway, there were a couple of things. I like to give you all information going into the new year and give you information all year long that I can to help you make it through whatever, through the year, the coming year, and whatever else. Because now I hear through the grapevine we're supposed to be at war with somebody, with a whole bunch of people. And so, like I always say, check my playlist out and be prepared. Uh, be prepared for whatever. The grid going down, anything. Just be prepared. But most of all, stay in prayer. And that's how I feel about that. But what I did want to tell you that I did find out about was something about meat and fish because they playing all kind of little dirty tricks with us with the food, and they're not going to tell us. Somebody did something, a video showing all the meat that they saw in some of these stores, not all every store, but the stores they were in. You got to read these labels now because they put on packages of beef and they put ingredients, natural flavoring. Well, now everybody got a conspiracy theory like, oh, it must be printed meat and they must be putting flavoring in. I don't know what it means. But the beef I buy don't say that because beef don't need no flavoring. Okay. That's one thing. But when you go out and you buy your fish or your meat, read the labels. Like chicken, they're not going to tell you that it's printed meat or made up meat or lab meat. But the organic stores, they tell you, uh, they put on their label, on the packaging, hatched, which means it's a real chicken. Now, why would they do that if the other chicken wasn't hatched? So now you got to read the label and look for the words hatched. Well, I went over to Trader Joe's and their label said hatch. I went to Kroger's and say nothing, you know. And so, you know, be sure it says hatched on it. That way you'll know it's a chicken that was born a chicken, not created in a lab. The other thing is with fish. I just found this out. I used to love me some tilapia fish and not other fish. But they said be sure to look on the label and make sure that it does not say farmed. What you want is wild caught, which means they went out to the ocean somewhere or to some saltwater river or whatever and actually caught it. Okay. Farming, but they said for tilapia, they're the only ones that when they're on the farm, they eat their own poo poo. They eat each other's poo poo. So I don't think I want that. Okay, so I'm done with tilapia because I can't find any that doesn't say farmed. So make sure your fish doesn't say farmed on it. because that means they breeding it, growing it. It's not natural. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about is alcohol. If you do too much alcohol, I just found this out. If you drink too much alcohol, it damages the pancreatic tissues, which can lead to pancreatic cancer. hmm I mean, they don't say like don't drink or anything like that. They mean like if you're drinking every day, um, you better watch out for it. Now, people get pancreatic cancer that don't drink at all. But if this can lead to it, why risk it? And, they don't say like, oh, don't go out and drink, don't do this and that. They're talking about if you drink every day, all the time, uh, over time, it can damage the tissues. So for those of you who drink, I don't, but for those of you who do, kind of like moderation is always good. And the last thing is that this PSA is that virus going around that's acting like a cold. You know, uh, they say it acts like a cold, it feels like a cold, but it's a virus and it's very, very contagious. So guess what, everybody? Mask up again. Ain't gonna hurt nothing for you to put a mask on because you don't know what people walking around with. And you get in these congested places, especially these, I used to go when I used to shop at Walmart. I don't shop there anymore. But when I used to go to Walmart, every time I would come out, later on I would be sick. It was like a big giant petri dish. And so exercise some caution and prevention and start masking up and mask your children up too because it's hitting children as well. And they say it's a respiratory and sometimes it's like it messes up your throat a lot or you get pink eye on top of it. So y'all be careful out there um, and mask up again. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is how you live and move in this world. I think a lot of people give up a lot of time of their lives to other people, talking about them, bothering them, doing that kind of stuff, making fun of them. But while you're doing that, you are giving up part of your life. Now, the beef sector that I knew, if it was beef, it was real beef, not just coming on here talking about how bad somebody look or, you know, humiliating somebody or ridiculing somebody. That's not beef. That's just humiliating and ridiculing. But how much time of your life do you want to give and devote to other people? And they're not even in your real life. And I have found that, as you get older, and, they call me old lady. Yeah, I'm 76 years old. And I've learned from my living. And everybody, you can learn at 40. You can learn at 30. You can learn at 50. You can learn at any age. Some people learn early. Some people learn late. But what you need to learn is to protect your peace and not look back over your life and see so much time wasted. I'm still surprised when somebody wants to talk about me or plotting and scheming on me because, you know, like I told y'all in the past, nobody's better than anybody. I'm not special. It's certainly not special enough to be talked about and all this kind of stuff and targeted or whatever. When you do that, when you engage in that, you're still devoting some of your life to that person. And you have to decide whether or not it's worth it to you. What else could you be doing? You could be going somewhere. You could be doing some self-care. You could be nurturing your relationship. You could be doing a whole lot of other things. You could be nurturing friendships. You could be resting and relaxing. There's a lot you could be doing. And If you're on here all day, every day, then you're giving up your life to some people that you wouldn't give the time of day if you knew them in person. Think about that. Think about that. I think when people are going through stuff, be careful what you do or what you say about what they're going through, because it could backfire and you could be going through it. Okay? Put your mouth on something like that, you speak it to the universe will bring that energy back to you. And you definitely don't want that. And as far as forgiveness, I call it playing the forgiveness game, because a lot of times people say, well, I forgive this person, I forgive. They don't forgive, because when you actually forgive, you don't think about it anymore. You do forget it. There are people that I, didn't forgive, but at one point in time, some people, I can't even remember their names, and I was heartless angry with those people, whoever it was. But when you actually forgive or you don't forgive, either one, you can't play around with that, because God knows your heart. And if you say you forgive and you really don't, and you're really not forgiving, then, he knows you're lying. So I don't play like that. I ain't gonna sit up and say, yeah, I forgive this person, I forgive that person. I ain't forgot. I ain't forgave a whole lot of people. But at least I'm real about it. I'm keeping it 100. I'm not pretending that, oh, I'm going to forgive. No, I ain't saying that. When people start talking about forgiving, and people who know me and who have known me even up on here, know that I say, I ain't going to say that, because I ain't there yet. I'm not good like that yet. And then some people can genuinely do it. But it's not something you play around with, because then who are you trying to impress by saying that? And I think that as you move on in life, you know, nobody's guaranteed to be here a single second. People pass away at an hour old or at 100 and something years old, and anywhere in between. And you can't go around wishing death on people, because it could backfire and come hit you. But also, you don't speak that to out to the universe, because like I said, the principles of the universe, okay, what you speak comes back to you in some kind of way. And you can pretend to be happy and this sort of stuff and be miserable. But I hope that in this coming year that everybody um, tries to grow a little bit and move a little different. Now, yeah, I pray, but you know what? And I believe in God and that sort of thing, but I will cuss somebody out. I'm not fake like that. I'm honest about it. I'll cuss somebody out, but I try not to. I really try not to. And then the last thing is that as Black people, we got to really watch what we do, okay, to each other. Because last year, earlier this year rather, I was ready to call the police on a whole lot of people. And last year too, I believe. But I think that, my son had a talk with me, and he reminded me, some people can call the police on each other. But if the police shows up at our door, okay, it could go south. Like that lady was in her kitchen, ain't done nothing but said, I rebuke you, and got shot in the head. She called them because she thought it was a prowler. So imagine if somebody calls the police on somebody else and it goes south. And like my son told me, he says, don't worry about what they're saying. Okay. He said, because you don't want that blood on your hands. Okay. And I kind of like, oh, I don't care about no blood on my hands. Blah, blah, blah. But it made sense. I thought about it. It made sense. And I don't want nobody to die behind something. And sometimes that's what calling the police can cause. Now, don't get me wrong. I can and I will, if I have to, call the police about something real in my world or if it touches me in my real life, okay? But as far as, what I'd done in the past, I'm really not there anymore because after he talked to me and let me see that for us as Black people, that's a dangerous thing. We're taking somebody's life into our own hands. And we have to be real careful about that because nobody, nobody's bad enough to go try to take somebody out. So why send somebody who might take them out? Or, and they get hurt real bad or even get unalived. So you really have to, we really have to be careful and watch what we do and not put ourselves in a position for being responsible for someone no longer being on this earth. And, I had to address that because, like I said, he had a talk with me and, because when I talk to him or when I see him or whatever, and I'm fussing about something, I'm going to call everybody. I'm going to call the police, this and that and that. No. And he did have a talk with me. So I do take my son's counsel and I do listen because it made a lot of sense at that point because everybody wishes that lady hadn't called the police because she thought there was a prowler. If she had known she was going to end up dead, she wouldn't have called them. So we have to be very careful. Even when we reach out for ourselves, we got to think ahead. Now, how this going to play out? And if a Black man answers the door, automatically he's a target. So we have to be real careful about that. And if you can be a blessing to somebody, be that. Be that blessing to people. Help people when you can, if you can. And if you can't help them, pray for them. That's how I hope people start moving in the future and the way they navigate and maneuver in this world. And that's not easy to do because I know there's some of us, and I say us, when somebody start talking about you, you're going to say, wait a minute, hold up. Wait a minute. Who you talking to? What you think you saying? And I'm no better than anybody else when it comes to that. But I think devoting so much time to negativity only breeds more negativity into your life. I see people on here going through stuff, struggling, and I do have empathy for them because, when your life gets on a spiral, a downward spiral, or stuff starts coming from anywhere and everywhere, hitting everywhere, like that song say, life's going to try to make you lose your grip and the waves going to hit. When that happens, you cannot rejoice in that. That has nothing to do with you or me or anybody else. That's their life, and they have to deal with those issues themselves. And you have to move away from trying to degrade someone based upon their past and what they've done in the past. See, everybody that you don't know about their past, okay? You think you do, but you don't. And then some people that you think don't have a past got a notorious past. But it's none of our business what happened in the past because it didn't happen to us, and that's their life. And they're entitled to be able to move on from what they used to do. And we have a difficult time, it seems like, in this little algorithm of letting things go that people have done in the past. We have to leave it in the past if they've moved on, if they're continuously doing it, yeah, you're going to talk about it. But to reach back to what people were doing 5, 6 years ago, and they're not doing it now, um, I think that's very, very cruel. I really do. Because there's a such thing as redemption. People make bad choices, they make mistakes. We all do. But some of us, all of our mistakes are not known. And you should be able to move forward even if they are known without somebody throwing it up in your face like they're holier than thou and they're better than you or you're better than them, whatever. Anyway, I hope everybody moves forward into the new year with a better mindset, um, a happy mindset, a go get the bag mindset, and a survival mindset. Because Trump done said that this was the last Christmas. I don't know what that means. Okay. But you can put, I'm gonna celebrate my Christmas, whether they tell me to or not, whether they acknowledge it or not. But still, that's really scary that he said that. And he don't have no filter, so he say stuff that they don't mean for him to say. That was a warning. And so be blessed, stay prayerful. The year ahead is going to require a lot of prayer. And you can't, blessing and cursings can't come out the same mouth. Okay. You've got to watch what you say so you don't draw any negative energy to yourself. And that's what I've had to work on and what I continue to work on. And I'll say this, somebody told me when you start speaking things that are negative, and you've got your angels around you and this sort, you confuse the angels because they don't, well, what are we supposed to do with that? And I thought about that. I said, yeah, because you're speaking what is in direct contrast to what their mission is for good things for you, and you speaking negative. And think about that. Just think about it. And then I saw another thing is that the energy you send out, that's the energy the universe sends back to you. So you have to be very careful and watch your toxic associates, okay? Because they can indeed, spread that negative energy onto you. If they're toxic and they're negative, I think you need to move away, back off, okay? So y'all, Happy New Year. You made it through this past year, and you can make it through the next one. But always be prepared, always be prayerful. First and foremost, be prayerful.